Hello everyone. In this chapter we're going to learn how to deploy your Laravel app up onto the live web so that the entire world can visit and use it. Right? So that way, instead of local host that only we can visit, we want our web app up on a live domain that our friends, family, and everyone else can visit. Now, before we go any further, I want to begin this video by saying that Laravel Forge is amazing, and Laravel Cloud is going to be even more amazing. And while I would definitely recommend these services, if you needed to host a mission-critical app that is going to get lots of traffic or that will be generating you revenue, well, that doesn't really apply to most projects we're going to be building or you're going to be building right now. At this point in your Laravel journey, you're most likely practicing or building applications for educational value and experimenting, or maybe you are building apps for smaller clients that are paying you, but they will have relatively tiny amounts of traffic. Right? And in cases like that, I don't think we should forget one of the biggest advantages of PHP in the first place, which is its ubiquitous nature. It's everywhere, and even the most affordable basic hosting plans run it flawlessly. So in this guide, I want to show you how to deploy your Laravel application up onto a basic shared hosting plan, something like DreamHost. I think this is a great idea because many of you watching this probably already have a traditional shared hosting plan like this that you're already paying for and you can make great use of. And if you don't already have a plan like this, well, this is the exact plan that I use in real life and that I have for the last 19 years. So I want to teach what I know, what I'm familiar with, and what I have personally trusted with my business. Over the years, I think shared hosting has gotten a bad rap unfairly because in this guide, we're going to learn how to set up silky smooth Git deployments, command line access, Composer, Cron Jobs, and more, all on a super basic and affordable shared hosting plan that would let you host as many different Laravel projects and sites as you wanted to. Now, before we go any further, I do want to let you know that if you use my link to DreamHost and sign up for a plan, I will indeed receive compensation for referring new users their way. All right, but let's get started. The plan that I always recommend if you go to hosting and then shared website hosting is absolutely not the shared starter. We want shared unlimited. This is great because it's super affordable, but it lets you have unlimited websites. It comes included with one free domain, unlimited traffic, so on and so forth. But I don't ever recommend this option because you can only have one website. This one with unlimited websites, it's incredible value. This is the plan that I have used for the last 19 years myself. All right, enough talk, let's get started. So this is what the dashboard looks like. And you're going to spend most of your time in the Manage My Websites area. So you can click here or in the sidebar, Manage Websites right here. If you just signed up for a new account, you won't see any sites listed here. But you can see as I scroll through this, I've been using this plan for a long time. I've set up so many different clients and projects and side hustles using this one super affordable account. Anyways, if you've created a new account, you don't have any sites to manage, you're wanting to create a new website. So we're going to use this button. So click that with me, Add Website. And if you just signed up for a new account, it comes bundled with one free domain. In my case, I don't have an extra free domain lying around, so I need to get creative. So I'm going to set up a subdomain. So this is my website, learnwebcode.com. I'm going to create a subdomain maybe of like laravel.learnwebcode.com. But it will be a brand new, completely empty blank slate so that you and I can walk through everything step by step together. You can follow along with me deploying your Laravel project. Cool, so let's set that up. In my case, I'm not going to enter a domain because I don't have any extra free ones, so I'm clicking on create a subdomain, and I'll just choose Laravel, and then it will be dot, and then for the parent domain, I'll choose my learnwebcode.com. Okay, I'll click next onto the hosting area. We're definitely just going to want to select our shared unlimited as the hosting, so click select, and then click Setup Website in the bottom right corner. And it's that easy. Now, it will take maybe a few minutes to get it set up, but we're definitely 100% going to need to customize some of those settings. So right away, let's go ahead and click on the Manage button for the new website that we just created. So the first two things that I'm wanting to set up, number one, I want to use the latest or newest version of PHP. And number two, I want to create a command line user, right? I want to be able to SSH in from the terminal so we can run Composer, we can set up cron jobs, all sorts of things that are necessary when working with Laravel. But let's take it one step at a time. If we click on website here, and let's scroll down, PHP version. So I'm going to click modify, and I'm just going to bump it up to the newest version, 8.3. And then click the change PHP version button. Whoops, it looks like there are other changes that are pending. We need to wait maybe a minute or two for those other changes to go through. Okay, so off camera, I just waited maybe another minute or two. Now we can click change PHP version. It's saying if automated tests determine that this site is not compatible. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. We haven't even set up a site yet. So I'll just click change PHP version no matter what. Cool. And we click it one more time. Awesome. Let's click back onto manage for that website. I want to make sure that we can have command line access. So let's click on website. And then right towards the top, we see login info. Let's click the arrow to drop that down. Perfect. So this is where we can set up command line or terminal access. I would recommend just keeping your existing username. Your username will be different than mine, but just copy that somewhere secure on your computer. We're going to want that in another maybe 3 or 4 minutes from now. Go ahead and click change password to choose something that you can keep track of, again, somewhere secure on your computer, or if you have a password manager. You can see it's still processing the PHP version changes, so we need to wait maybe another minute to have those go through. While we're waiting on that, let me see if I can go ahead. We're absolutely 100% going to want to enable SSH. So am I allowed to click on that? Looks like I am. But now that just locked me out of the interface to change the password. No worries, through the magic of video editing, we'll resume once we can set that up. Cool, so it looks like that change went through for me. So then make sure that you know what your password value is. So you can click change password. Just choose something and keep track of it, maybe in a password manager or somewhere secure. Eventually, we're going to set up passwordless login through SSH through the command line using SSH keys, and that's going to be amazing. But the first couple of times that we log into the server, you are absolutely going to need to manually type in a password. So just make sure you're aware of what that is. That will take maybe a minute or two to go through, but let's be patient. All right, but as soon as you're aware of your username and password and you've made sure that secure shell access is enabled, we can leave this area and scroll down a bit on this exact same page. Down towards the very bottom, we see additional settings, and I'm interested in this area called paths. So this has to do with the public folder in Laravel. If we look at the folder structure of our application, the idea here is that we don't want the general public able to access things like package.json, or composer.json or .env or anything really. The idea is that the only folder that the public should be able to access is the aptly named public folder. So we want to make sure, let me show you what I have in mind here. If we click this arrow to expand down the paths area, there's going to be a folder on my server with this, my domain name. But the idea is that after that, I'm going to, at the end, manually add a /public. This way, from the very start, the server is configured to not serve up the root of the folder structure, but to serve up, the public folder, which works perfectly with Laravel. So I'll just scroll down and click Save Changes. Cool, and then that will take maybe just a minute or two to go through, but once that's finished, then we're finally ready to log in from the command line. Actually, one last detail. So from the Manage Website overview for this site that we're working on, instead of website, let's click on Security. I want to make sure, now normally by default, when I create new websites on DreamHost, they use an HTTPS Let's Encrypt certificate by default. And this time it looks like we're needing to manually add one, but it's as simple as just clicking Add Secure Certificate. Absolutely, let's just use the free Let's Encrypt. So click Select this certificate. Perfect. So that way you won't get HTTPS warnings when you visit the website. That might take up to 15 minutes to go through, but I think it'll be done a lot quicker than that. So if I visit my website and click refresh, beautiful. You can see it now has HTTPS. That warning goes away. We are in business. However, this is not a lesson about having a welcome screen. This is a video about getting command line access, right? Laravel needs things like Composer. We're going to want to use Git to push our files. We're going to want to set up cron jobs for Laravel scheduling and automation, so on and so forth. So the moment of truth, how do we actually log into our website from the command line? Well, do this with me from a terminal. We're going to say SSH and then whatever your username is. So my username is DH_3J, let's see, 8Q5K. Yours is definitely something different than mine. So use your own value here, but then say the @ symbol. So it's your username, @ symbol, and then your website. So whatever your domain is. So mine is laravel.learnwebcode.com. Go ahead and press enter. It's going to ask if you want to trust the host. Yes, we absolutely trust the DreamHost server. So just type in yes and then press enter. And now we need to enter that password that I told you to keep somewhere safe. So go ahead and type that in and press enter. Awesome. We should see a message similar to this letting you know that you're logged in. Just a really quick tip. If you like to get your cursor back up to the top of the screen, you'll see me do this pretty often. I just type in the command of clear and press enter. Cool. Let's go ahead and run ls to see what sort of folders we have. So yes, you see we have Laravel. Now let's cd into that. We have, obviously your domain is different than mine, but you can cd into your domain folder. And then if you run an ls on that, perfect. We see the public folder. So the idea is that and you can always see the folder you're currently in with pwd, print the working directory. So once you're in your domain folder like this, it contains a public folder. And you know what that means? This is the perfect folder to spin up a new Laravel application. Which leads us to our next task. In order to set up a Laravel project, we 100% need Composer. In the past, I had wrongly assumed that there's no way you're getting Composer installed on affordable shared hosting. But the truth is that it's very simple. In the description of this video, you'll find a link to this exact DreamHost documentation page. The instructions are simple enough. So right now, let's walk through this. Let's get Composer installed. First of all, just for a baseline, to prove to ourselves that we don't already have it installed, you could say like composer -- version, right? And that is not found. Let me run a clear just to go back up to the top. So let's just follow the documentation. Now, from this page, this DreamHost documentation page, I'm going to scroll down, and I'm looking for this area about installing it globally. So if you do a Control Command F and just search for installing globally, these are the instructions I'm going to start with. All right, so the first step is to just make sure you're in your home folder. We already are, but if you just want to make triple sure, you would just say cd space and then a tilde. Cool. Next up, we want to create a new folder or directory. You could literally just copy and paste this command, this make directory command. Paste it in, hit enter. Okay, what's the next step? cd into that folder. All right, so if you run an ls, well, it's a hidden directory, but if you run an ls-a, in our home directory, we now have this hidden folder that starts with a .php. So you could say like cd into .php. And then if you run an ls, yes, you'd want to cd into the Composer folder. Perfect. Okay, so once you're in the Composer folder, what's the next step? The next step is to run the Composer installer. So again, you literally just copy and paste this curl command into your clipboard, and then just paste it in, press enter. It's that quick, it's already done. Let's see what the next step is. I believe the final step is just making it available from our path so that we can actually call it from the command line. So what we need to do is open up our bash profile in our home directory and add this line to it. Be careful though, you do absolutely need to replace username with your specific username. But let's take it one step at a time. Let's first just learn how to open up our bash profile. So if you cd back to cd tilde to go to your home folder, and let's run an ls-a. Yes, beautiful for the hidden files. In your home folder, you see .bash_profile. So let's open that up. You could use Vim if you're feeling brave. I'm going to use the Nano text editor. Let's actually go back up to the top. So say Nano, that's the text editor we're going to use, and then a space. Which file do we want to open up? Well, just .bash_, if you type it correctly, bash_profile. Go ahead and press enter. Cool, now you could use the arrow keys on your keyboard to go down a line, and then maybe just right about here, I'm going to add that line. So back from the documentation, you would just copy and paste this line into your clipboard, and then paste it in, but don't save it yet. We absolutely need to use our arrow keys and replace this hard-coded username with our real dynamic username. Yours will be different than mine, but mine was DH_3J8Q5K. Again, yours will be different, but if you're using DreamHost like me, your path should have this exact same pattern. And now we can just save this file. So you hit Control X, hit Y for yes, hit enter to accept that file name. Cool. Let's see what the next step is. Save your file and close it. Update your bash profile. So you can just copy this command. It does start with a dot, not the tilde, so make sure you're copying the dot at the start of the command. Let's copy and paste that in. I believe that's the final step. Oh, there's one more step, just renaming or moving it. So again, just grab this command that starts with MV. Let's copy, paste. Is that the final step? I think now we're free to use it. So you can test that out by just saying composer -- version. Awesome, we are in business. From here, we know exactly what to do. So let's see, where are we at? Yes, so you would just cd into, your domain will be different, but you would cd into your domain folder. If you run an ls, remember that's the folder that contains public. So in other words, the directory I'm in right now, I am free to spin up a new Laravel app. So we know how to do that. We say composer, create project, Laravel definitely need to spell it correctly, Laravel /Laravel, and then a space, and I'm going to say a dot to use the current folder that we're already in. Let's go ahead and press enter. It's saying that folder is not completely empty, so we need to fix that first. So let's get our bearings. Let's see where we're at. You could manually remove these two files in the public folder. I think it's probably easier to just go up a folder. So go back into your home folder. Right? And I would just delete your domain folder and then recreate it. So I would just say rm-rf and then just whatever your domain folder is. And then press enter. And then I would just, now if you run ls, you don't have that folder, but we can just create it again. So I would just make directory, make dir, laravel.learnwebcode.com. And then I would cd back into that folder. And now I would run, composer, create project, Laravel, and then a dot for the current folder we're in. Let's go ahead and press enter. This should only take maybe, I'm going to guess, 20 to 30 seconds. And we're already done. So now the moment of truth, if we go to my website, laravel.learnwebcode, and refresh, we should see a Laravel welcome page. Absolutely beautiful. That's exactly what we see. So from here, now it's just a matter of moving over our source code files, setting up a Git deployment strategy, using cron jobs to set up Laravel's schedule and automation tasks, moving over our environment variables, so on and so forth. But we're going to make all of that happen in the very next video. Let's keep our momentum rolling, and I'll see you then. Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to pick up right where we left off. Let's jump back into the action. So in our previous video, we set up a live Laravel website, but it's just the default sort of welcome to Laravel dashboard, right? So in this video, we need to learn how to move over our actual Laravel source code, right? All of our controllers, our models, our templates, everything, our routes, just all of our code, right? Because we want this app that runs locally, we want that to run on the public web. Now, the industry standard and most luxurious way of moving files to a server is something called Git. Now, historically, I think there's this idea that if you're using affordable shared hosting, that means you need to use old FTP strategies or browser-based file managers. But no, we can set up our server with a bare Git repo, and it can act as a Git remote, right, or a Git host that we push to, right? So right from within VS Code, instead of saying git push origin to push to like GitHub, you could say git push live or git push production to push directly to your shared hosting server. However, before we get to that, before we worry about transferring our source code files with Git to our server, let's take care of one really important task. And that is, how in the world can we log into our server from the command line without having to awkwardly type in our password, right? So in other words, how can we leverage the power of SSH keys? So right now I'm going to log in, and I want this to be the very last time that you and I log into our server where we have to type in a password. So let's do that awkward dance of typing in a password just one more time. So we say SSH and then whatever your username is. Mine is DH_3J8Q5K @ and then whatever your domain is. So mine was laravel.learnwebcode.com. Right? And this will be the final time. Go ahead and type in your password, because right now I want to show you how the server can trust us without a password instead, using something called SSH keys. So go ahead and type in your password this one last time. Okay, cool. So now we're all logged into our server, and all we need to do is go into our home folder. We should be there by default. And if you run ls with a space and then -A, you can see your hidden files and hidden folders. We need to create a hidden folder in our home directory named SSH. So you would just say make dir dot, you have a dot so that it's a hidden folder, but it needs to have this exact name. So .ssh. Okay, and then let's go into that folder. So cd.ssh. In this folder, we want to create a brand new file named authorized keys. So you can say touch to create a new file, touch and then a space, author, and it needs to have this exact perfectly spelled name, all lowercase, authorized _ keys. Go ahead and press enter, and then we just would edit this file and include the public key from our own personal computer. Now I'm going to leave this open. This represents, my server, my web host. I'm going to go into VS Code just so there's this clear distinction. In this window, I'm going to show you how to find your personal computer's public key. You might already have one or you might not have one. Let me show you where to look, and then if you don't have one, I'll show you how to create one. So on your personal computer, you can cd tilde to go to your home directory, right? Because your SSH key is not going to live in your Laravel files here. So definitely cd tilde. But then you're just going to cd into .ssh and then run an ls. So this is the file you're looking for. It's named id_ed25519, but really specifically, we want the one that ends in .pub. That's your public key. Absolutely do not look at the contents of your private key. We want this one, the .pub. Cool. So all you would do is just say cat and then a space and then type in this exact file name, and then that's going to give you your public key right here in the terminal, and then you could just select the entire thing and copy it into your clipboard. If, however, you're saying, Brad, I don't have an SSH folder, or, I do have an SSH folder, but I don't have ID, ed25519.pub, all you need to do is if you just Google for GitHub, how to generate an SSH key, maybe you can add on Mac or Windows at the end, but this command actually works for both Mac and Windows. I'm not sure if you need to install a package on Linux first. You probably don't. I think it just works out of the box for basically every operating system in the world, but this is the exact command that you would run. So just run this, obviously swap in your email address, but it's that easy. You just run this command and then you follow the installation wizard. You just, hit next, 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 make it as simple as possible, and then you will indeed have this same file. Cool. So right now let's do that. Let's cat that file's content. So you just say cat and then ID underscore, let's see, we want this one that ends in .pub. It's going to begin with SSH-ed. Select that entire value that it outputs and copy it into your clipboard. With that in your clipboard, let me show you how we use it. So back on our shared hosting, we're logged in, you would just edit that new file we created named authorized keys. So let's use the nano editor. So nano, a space, and then it's authorized keys. It's an empty file because it's brand new. Just paste in your clipboard and then save the file. So Control X, yes, Y for yes, you want to save, enter to hit that file name. Perfect. There's just one last step before we can test this out. We want to make sure that that SSH folder and file have the correct permissions. So I would just go back to my home directory, so cd tilde, and then we're just going to say chmod 700 on the .ssh folder, and then also chmod 600 on the .ssh/authorized keys file. Enter. Now, to close this connection so that we can test logging in without a password, you just say exit and hit enter. Cool. So now I'm back on my own personal private computer. Now let's try connecting back to the server, but this time, hopefully our SSH key works and we don't have to type in a password. So SSH, your username at your domain. Let's press enter. Beautiful. I cleared the screen just so I didn't show my IP address, but that's it. I did not have to type in a password. We are back into the server. The reason this is so cool is because now, once we set up our server to be a Git host that we can push to, like right back on our personal private computer, so back in VS Code, just so we avoid confusion, be sure to close your current terminal with the trash icon and then open up a fresh terminal just so that it's pointing towards your Laravel project files again. But the idea is that now when we say something like git push live or git push production, We won't even need to type in a password. Our computer can just magically, and it will be authorized to push all of our changes and files up to the server. It's a super smooth, luxurious workflow, not just for Git, but now also anytime you need to log in to tinker or make changes, you won't need to type in your password. Cool. So in this video, we successfully set up SSH keys. Now in our very next video, we're going to pick up right where we left off and turn our server into a Git host that we can push to. Let's keep our momentum rolling, and I'll see you then. Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to learn how to move our Laravel source code files from our personal computer up to our live web host. So this is localhost. This is our application up and running. And in our previous lesson, we set up this brand new sort of empty canvas Laravel project on a real live public website. So in this video, I want to show you back in VS Code, like how to move our actual source code, like our controllers, our models, our blade templates, our routes, so on and so forth. How do we use Git to transfer or move these files to our server? Well, before we even worry about our server, let's make sure that our local Git repository is set up correctly. So just in VS Code with your folder that we've been working on for this entire course, I want you to jump into the file that's named .gitignore. It should be around line number 3, but we absolutely want to remove this line of /public/build. Let me explain my reasoning for this. I don't want to have an intermediate step that automatically builds our JavaScript and CSS assets, and I don't want our server to have to do that. I'm willing to do that locally and just have that be transferred with all the other files. So I'm going to remove /public/build. Cool, right? So that way, public, build, right, our bundled up assets will indeed get sent along to the server. Other than that, if you're on a Mac, I always recommend up at the top just adding .ds_store, and that should be it. Otherwise, the default gitignore file that Laravel provides is perfect. So I would go ahead and save this file. Let's close it out and then go into your terminal and let's get our local Git repo set up. So you would just say git init. That's it. Git init. Go ahead and press enter. Cool. Let's go ahead and add every single file in there. So git add -a. Then we want to lock that in. So git commit -m. Give it a message. Just say first commit. Close out that quote. Press enter. Beautiful. So now the question is, how do we push this Git repo up to our server? Really quick timeout, because if you're watching this video and you're yelling at the screen right now saying, Brad, I don't even know what Git is. How do I get Git installed on my computer? Well, let's talk about that for 20 seconds. If you're on a Mac, you should be able to just say git -- version, and if you don't have Git already, it should, a Mac system pop-up will say, do you want to install Git through Apple Developer Tools? You can do that. If you're on Windows, you can just visit the official Git website, go ahead and install it. Okay, and then once you have Git installed on your computer, you'll just need to run these 2 commands. So this is the first command. Go ahead and obviously type in your email address, and then this is the second command you would run, obviously with your name, but that's it. Once you do that, then you should be able to rewind and follow along with every step that I've just performed in this video so far. Perfect. All right, so now that we have our Git repo set up locally on our personal computer, now we need to go push it up to our web host. Now by default, our web server, so in this tab, I'm logged in through SSH into my DreamHost, right? The server that's hosting laravel.learnwebcode.com. In this terminal, by default, it's not set up as a Git host that we can push our repo to, but I would say within the next 3 to 4 minutes, we can have it set up to be a Git host. So let's do that right now. Let's turn this affordable plan into something that we can push to with Git. Let's start out in our home folder. So currently I'm in my home folder. You can see I just have my domain folder. I'm going to create a brand new folder in my home folder and maybe name it like our repo. So do this with me. mkdir make directory, and you can name it anything, but just so you and I are on the same page, let's call it our repo. Let's press enter. Okay, let's cd into that folder. So cd our repo. All right, and then the idea is we're going to turn this folder into an empty or bare Git repository that can be pushed to. To do that, we just say git init and then space -- bare. So git init -- bare. Go ahead and press enter. Here we see a bit of a message just letting us know that the default or initial branch will be named master instead of main. We'll make sure that our local repo pushes to master a bit later on. It does offer this command to change the default to main, but I've tried running this before, and this command will still use master. So I've found, at least with DreamHost shared plans, it makes things a lot easier to just roll with the fact that the branch is master by default. Cool. Anyways, now that we've ran this command of git init -- bear, if we run an ls in this folder we're in, notice it created a bunch of folders for us, but the one that we're really interested in is this folder called hooks. If you cd into hooks and run an ls, you'll see that there are a lot of different files, and these get triggered after certain events, like before a push or after a push, before a commit, so on and so forth. Right now, I want to create a new file for an event hook, and it needs to have a very specific name. Let me go back up to the top of the screen. So do this with me. We're going to say touch to create a new file, and it needs to have this exact name. So type this in with me, post-receive. Make sure you're spelling it correctly, post-receive. It doesn't need a file extension, just post-receive. Let's go ahead and press enter. Cool, and now let's edit that file. So nano, and then the name of the file, post-receive. For the very first line, let's say hashtag !bin/bash, just so this script knows which shell to run. Let's drop down, and now I'm not going to explain character by character, but essentially we're just telling Git that after it has received, like after you've pushed a commit to it, after that is completely finished, like after it's received that last kilobyte, then we're going to automatically sort of check out or copy these files into the web host's public folder, right? That's actually getting served up, on the live web. So to do that, we just say git --work-tree equals, and now this is where we want the files to get copied to. So we would say /home/ and then whatever your DreamHost username is, the same username that you use to SSH into your server. So for me, but it will be different for you, that's dh_3j8q5k, and then /, and then for me, again, your domain folder will be different, but my domain folder is laravel.learnwebcode.com, and then a space, and then say --git-directory equals, and now this is that brand new our repo folder that we created just a moment ago. So that's /home/ then your username again. Yours is different than mine. Type that in real quick, /, and then we created a folder called our repo, a space, and then just checkout, and then a space -f to force the checkout. And that's it. Let's go ahead and save this file. So Control X, hit Y for yes, enter to accept that file name, and then we just need to change the permissions on that file. So chmod space +X on post-receive. Go ahead and press enter, and that's it. So now, back in our local computer, back in VS Code, we just need to add our server as a new remote. So like if you were going to push to GitHub, you would say git push origin. We can create a new remote called like live. So you would say git push live or git push production. So in VS Code, where you have open your Laravel files, like in our project folder, type this in with me in the terminal. We're going to say git remote add, and now we can make up a name. We could call it production. Let's call it live. So git remote add live, and then sort of where in the whole World Wide Web do we want to push this to? Well, it's SSH:// and then your specific DreamHost name. So yours is different than mine, but mine would be this 3J8Q5K. And it would actually probably make sense to just copy that into your clipboard because we're going to need it again in about 30 seconds from now. @ whatever your domain is. So mine is laravel.learnwebcode.com /, and then we just spell out the path. So home / and then paste in your username again /, and we name that new folder our repo, right? That's where we said there's a git bare or empty repo. And then that post-receive script, when you push to this, it's going to automatically copy all of the necessary files into that different folder that's getting publicly hosted. So let's go ahead and press enter. That added the remote. And now before we actually push to it, let's make sure that we create a branch locally named master instead of main. So I would just say git checkout -b master : Cool, so now we're on this master branch. Now we're ready to try pushing this up to our server. So git push, or you know how you would normally say git push origin for like GitHub or something like that. We're going to say git push live, and then the branch name is master. So git push live master, go ahead and press enter. Now the very first commit might take, well, you can see that was almost immediate. Wow, I thought it would take a little bit longer than that. Now, if we refresh, we most definitely are going to see an error message, but that's okay. Yes. So now that all of those files live in the correct location, there's a few things we need to do. We need to install our new Composer dependencies. We need to copy over our environment variables, and a couple other random little tasks like that. So those are really easy to complete. Just go back to your server. So this is my DreamHost where I'm logged in. And let's go back to our home folder, and then let's log into our actual domain folder. So cd Laravel, yes. So from this directory, this is where we're just going to tell Composer to install the new dependencies, right? We're going to make use of our file that we just sent over, composer.json. So literally you would just say Composer install. Go ahead and press enter. That's going to grab all of the dependencies that we would need. Okay, while we're at it, let's just migrate any database migration. So PHP artisan migrate. Cool. While we're at it, let's make sure that our storage folder is, that symbolic link is working. So I would say PHP artisan storage : link. Go ahead and press enter. Awesome. And then one last thing, let's run an ls. Let's go ahead and I'm looking for the .env file. Let's run an ls-a. Yes. So let's take the contents from VS Code. I'm not going to show you mine, but in VS Code, the project that we've been building throughout all these previous chapters, just go into your .env file, hit Control-A or Command-A to select every single line of code in that file. Okay, so off camera, I just did that, and I now have that sitting in my clipboard. And then here's what you would do. On your server, just nano, make sure you're in the right folder, but just nano.env. And actually, you know what? I just realized because I'm not a Vim superhero, I don't even know a quick way to just delete everything. Let's back out of that. Control-X. What would be way faster is to just delete that file and then just create a new copy and then paste it in. So I would just rm to remove, just remove.env, and then let's touch a brand new copy of env, and then let's nano that. So nano.env, just paste in your clipboard, and then use your arrow key. It might take a minute, but go up to the very, very top of the file, and let's change a few things. So this app environment, let's change that from local to production, and then very important for security reasons, change app debug. Instead of true, we want to set that to false. And then while you're at it, you could probably change your app URL to now be https:// and then whatever your domain is. Okay, and then just save this file. So Control-X to save it, hit Y, enter, cool. Let's go back and see if there's any more error messages. So if we refresh, perfect. Now we're starting fresh with an empty slate. So like this didn't migrate over our data. So like you would need to register a new user. I'll try to create a Brad user. Let me click sign up. Looks like we ran into a database problem. Let me try just a really quick, let's try PHP artisan migrate : fresh. Let's see if that does anything for us. So if I go back, try to create another user really quick. Click sign up. Cool, that works. Basically the solution was just to run PHP artisan migrate fresh on the fresh site. Cool. So now there's two independent databases, right? Like there's a different set of users and posts locally, and then the live site has its own copy. Let me try uploading an avatar. So if I click manage avatar and choose my file, here's my photo, click save. Cool. Yes, so the storage is working properly. I can open the chat. I can click create a post. The chat persists. In the chat, I can say hello. Let me try to create a new post. My first Brad post. This is amazing and wonderful. Click save. Awesome. What if I go back to the homepage and perform a search for the word Brad? My first Brad post? Perfect. That'll bring this video to a close, but in our very next video, I want to show you how we can set up our scheduled tasks and like our automated tasks right, that should run once every minute or once every hour. And also like our jobs that run behind the scenes, like when you create a post, behind the scenes it's supposed to send off an email. To do all of that, we're going to learn how to set up a cron job to integrate with Laravel. It's going to be really quick and easy, but let's perform that in the next video. Let's keep our momentum rolling, and I'll see you then. Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to set up our scheduled tasks and also our jobs that can run in the background. Let's jump into the action and let me explain. So if we dig into our source code, remember we set up in routes in console.php, we learned how you can have something happen like on an automated schedule, like every minute or every hour, and that Laravel has all these built-in different schedule intervals. Well, you'll notice that our website could be up for 24 hours and it's not going to send this even once, and that's because our scheduling worker is not up and running in the background. Also, remember we set things up so that every time you create a new post, asynchronously or in the background, that should send an email. Well, again, you could sit here and create 1,000 posts. None of those background jobs are going to run because we don't have our background job runner up and running. So in this video, that's what we're going to set up. Both of those things are accomplished by creating a cron job. So in your command line, log into your web host, your web server, and all we do is say cron tab, all one word, and then a space, and then -e to edit our cron jobs. So cron tab space -e, press enter. The very first time you run this, it might ask you which editor you want to use. I believe Nano is number 6 or something around there, but I recommend using Nano. Okay, and then we're just going to scroll down with the arrow keys on your keyboard down towards the bottom. And for both of these, both our background job runner and also our scheduler, I'm going to run them once every minute. So to do something every minute, it's 5 asterisks. So an asterisk and then a space. So there's 3 of them, there's 4 of them, there's 5 of them. So 5 asterisks with a space in between each one. And the first thing I want to do is basically call PHP artisan q:work and then give it a max time of 60 seconds. That way, it'll run for 60 seconds, and if for some reason it crashes or runs into a problem, it, at the end of the 60 seconds, will start back up again, right? So it gives us a bit of resilience. But it's not just as easy as saying PHP artisan. Instead, we really want to drill down and make sure that it's pointing towards an absolute path, like in our Laravel folder. So let me show you what I mean here. First of all, instead of just saying PHP and then artisan, I even want to spell out exactly where the PHP binary is. So let's say /usr/bin/php. Right, so that way, regardless of where, like which directory this script is running from, this absolute path makes sense. So that's saying PHP. Then we want to say artisan, but again, we need an absolute path towards our artisan shortcut in our Laravel project. So that would be /home/ and then whatever your DreamHost username is. Mine is DH_3J8Q5K / and then whatever your folder is. So my domain folder is laravel.learnwebcode.com. Yours would be something different, but then inside of that is where artisan lives. So far, this is the equivalent of saying PHP artisan, and then we just want to say q:work, and then at the very end, --max-time, no space, just equals 60. Now, before we drop down and spell out another line, you can save yourself a ton of typing by just basically copying this portion of this into your clipboard, because we're going to write another line, and the only unique part comes after artisan. So I would just select from artisan to the very start of the line, copy that, and then let's use the right arrow key to go to the very end, drop down to a second line, and then just paste in your clipboard. Cool. And for the second line after artisan, it would just be schedule::run. Awesome, and that's it. We can go ahead and save this file, Control X, yes, Y for yes, enter to accept that same name. And then to test this out, let me just go create a new post. I'll say new post to test cron job. This is my newest post, and then go ahead and save that post. Let me check my mail trap. Go ahead and refresh. The very first time that our cron job runs, it might take 59 seconds because it might need to wait until the next minute on the clock strikes and then start up. So let's be patient, maybe wait just 1 minute and see if that rolls through. Cool. So here are sort of a backlog of the other posts that I created on the website. Here is the email that should fire out once every minute. And then here is my absolutely newest post, new post to test the cron job. Beautiful. Through the magic of video editing, let me let 1 more minute pass by just to confirm that we're getting this once a minute site recap email. Beautiful. It just rolled in. Here's the newest copy that's going to come every minute. And that's it. So we've set up jobs that can run in the background and scheduled jobs. Now, if you don't want to receive those annoying emails every minute, all you need to do is come into your routes console.php and just remember to comment out this line or this schedule call. Beautiful, but at this point, we now have a website live up on the public web that you could share with your friends and family. It's using Livewire, it's using background jobs and scheduling, it's using Pusher to communicate with a live chat service. This is awesome. I hope you've enjoyed this series on deploying a Laravel project.